just because you have the title of leader doesn't mean that there aren't going to be periods and times where you have to take a step back and be someone who is being led by somebody else that doesn't have the title. But again, that comes back to letting go of your ego. What's going on, aspiring school leader? I am Dr. Donovan Smalls II, and welcome to Beyond the Classroom. I help aspiring school leaders land their first leadership role, navigate complex dynamics, enhance communication skills, and drive instructional excellence. I know you're enjoying this episode, but I wanted to let you know about my latest book, Beyond the Classroom, helping aspiring school leaders navigate interpersonal and organizational complexities for greater instructional impact. Now, this book is going to help you navigate the learning curve as you transition from being a classroom teacher to a school leader, manage your busy schedule and reclaim your time to effectively be an instructional leader, take a holistic approach towards school leadership, and increase your instructional impact by fostering a school culture of feedback and coaching. So if you are an aspiring school leader looking to be an effective practitioner, head over to my website and grab your copy today. Today's topic is leading state testing, real lessons for aspiring school leaders. My school, we just recently wrapped up state testing, and there were some leadership lessons that I really gleaned from this season of testing that I want to share with you that I think are going to be extremely helpful for you as an aspiring school leader. Because as an aspiring leader, once you land your first leadership role, one of the things that you might end up assigned to doing in terms of one of your roles and responsibilities, it might be state testing. And so there's a couple of things that I've learned as our school testing coordinator, the person who is in charge of facilitating professional development sessions and training teachers as it relates to state testing, and then planning and organizing things as it relates to making sure schedules are in the right place. There are a lot of logistical aspects of state testing that I want to kind of talk about, not every single aspect, but the leadership lessons that I learned from leading state testing. So let's go over 6 essential lessons every aspiring school leader needs before they ever lead a testing season. And number 1 is to build a strong team and then step back. Great leaders build the team, then they get out of the way. So one of the things I think is extremely important when it comes to state testing is understanding that, yes, you might be the school testing coordinator, but it doesn't mean that you should be doing everything by yourself. I'd argue that to lead state testing effectively within your entire school community, it would be counterproductive for you to think that you should be doing it all by yourself. And you hear me talk a lot about letting go of your ego as a leader, because that literally can get in the way of you being an effective leader. If you're leading state testing and you find yourself doing everything on your own, look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing everything on my own? And I'm not saying that if you are a person that doesn't have the proper support, that you should be questioning whether you're doing the right thing. But what I am saying is that if you have people who have a level of technical skill in these specific areas as it relates to scheduling, as it relates to making sure that there are the proper materials and resources and teachers are actually trained and know where to go within the testing system. If you are the only person that is doing that when you actually have other people at your disposal that can help you, then you might not necessarily be leading in an effective way. So one of the things I've noticed was that we have people within our school community who are extremely talented as it relates to tech, right? The technical aspects of school testing, making sure that we have Chromebooks that are up and running, making sure that our schedules are in line, right? Because I'm at a middle school, right? I'm helping to lead. I'm an assistant principal at a middle school, and what that means is that we have 3 different grade levels that have to test. So thinking about the logistics and how that's going to work, right? The internet bandwidth, and do we have enough teachers that are going to be able to facilitate and serve as test administrators? There's so much that goes into state testing that you cannot possibly do it alone if you want to do it the right way. So you have to empower people who have areas of expertise, right, to figure out scheduling, to figure out how are we going to make sure that this is done in a smooth and effective way. You have to empower them and get out of the way. And so one of the things that I've also noticed is that just because you have the title of leader doesn't mean that there aren't going to be periods and times where you have to take a step back and be someone who is being led by somebody else that doesn't have the title. But again, that comes back to letting go of your ego. So I want you to remember that one person can't run state testing effectively by themselves, right? Success starts with gathering a capable team, assigning clear roles based on their strengths, and then letting people lead. You have to trust your team, because when you empower other people to do their job, to operate in their particular gifting, a sign of trust is you actually getting out of their way and allowing them to lead. And maybe you are now taking a back seat to allowing them to direct and allow you to sit back and to support them as they serve as leader at that time. Because there are technical skills and there are also tactical skills that comes with state testing, that comes with leadership. And so it is impossible as a school leader to have all of the intangible technical skills that are needed to effectively make sure that students are getting the proper accommodations, that are getting the proper testing time, right? Like there are so many things that go into it that you are not going to have all of the technical skills. But if you surround yourself, if you build a team of people who have those skills, then everything will run effectively. So our first essential leadership lesson is that you must build a strong team and then step back. Get out of the way and let people do what they do. Number 2 is clarity is your superpower. Confusion creates chaos. Clarity creates confidence. What I've learned from this year's state testing session, or season rather, is that we learned from last year as a team, and then we built upon the strategies that we thought went well, and then we made the proper corrections to ensure that we had minimal hiccups, right? And so one of the things that you have to continue to do is make sure that you are over communicating to your teachers, to your school community in terms of the parents, what is needed of their child when they show up on testing day. They have to make sure that students are getting a proper breakfast or a proper meal, right? And obviously we're talking about equity issues there, but hopefully they're able to have a proper meal. And if not, are we able to provide them with something that gives them some sustenance to sustain and be able to think according to their level of greatness so that they can do well on their assessment, right? We have to make sure that we are making sure that everybody has a charged Chromebook. Does everyone have headphones that they can plug into their Chromebook, right? Because you can't use a Bluetooth device. There are so many things that go into it. And if you aren't someone who is going to over communicate to people, then that's when the ball sometimes gets dropped. When it comes to you facilitating your training session, your mandated training session to your teachers, are you ensuring that everyone is on the same page, that everyone is able to log into the system ahead of time so that on test day, you're not dealing with issues of people not being able to log into the system, not being able to see their rosters, not being able to see the accommodations that students are going to need, right? There are so many things, again, that go into state testing, and clarity is going to be king. You have to make sure that you are communicating, whether that is through email, whether that is during a staff meeting, whether that's just checking in with your teachers to make sure that everyone is on the same page, right? Communicating with your team leaders, who are then going to communicate with the teachers on their team to make sure everybody is on the same page. The logistical aspects that go into state testing require more than you just saying things one time. You have to be able to communicate at a level that everyone can understand, but then they can also follow up and reference if they forget what you said. Are you providing them with resources and cheat sheets and all of the things that are necessary for them to make their job easier? That is a part of your responsibility as the school testing coordinator. But again, I personally had the luxury of having a support system, having a strong team that was able to work together to get things done. And that's what I am encouraging you to do as well. Create a team, build a strong team, because if you're the only one that knows what's going on, what happens if you get sick? What happens if there's a technical issue with your computer and nobody else knows what is going on? Communication is key, because it brings clarity, and clarity creates confidence. So number 2 was clarity is your superpower. Number 3, the third lesson as it relates to state testing is that pressure reveals leadership gaps. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your preparation. So what I've noticed, right, and I've had conversations with a lot of our teachers, they've asked me how state testing was going, and I was able to communicate with them that state testing was smooth this school year. And the reason why was because of the preparation. There's a lot of preparation that goes before state testing comes, that if you start early enough, when it actually arrives, when it's time for state testing and students, doing their assessments, everything will run smoothly as long as you did the preparation ahead of time. You cannot wait to prepare to lead, because then it's too late. You have to make sure that you are doing things ahead of time to the degree where you're able to operate on autopilot and then make the adjustments as needed. Because there might be some situations where people are having, or teachers are having, or students are having issues in their classroom, and they might be technical issues, right? You might notice that a student is not able to have their text-to-speech accommodation, like what is going on. And if you are able to be poised, calm, cool, and collected, you are able to handle those situations with a level of grace, with a level of clarity that people can see that we don't all need to be in a panic, right? Because people are looking at you and your demeanor and your disposition for their reaction. And so pressure is going to reveal who you truly are as a leader, the level of emotional intelligence that you have. Because if you're frantic, people are going to be frantic. But if you're calm, cool, and collected, people will also reflect that disposition. So create systems that hold under pressure. Don't rely on memory or last minute fixes. And as I mentioned before, if you can create some sort of cheat sheet, if you could have someone on your team who is excellent at tech, who is excellent at spreadsheets, who is excellent at organizational skills, that is definitely going to help as we support the team. And here's the thing. When you understand that people are better than you in specific areas, it doesn't matter only if you are able to let go of your ego. And I have to give you a sports reference, right? It's because at the end of the day, we are not concerned about how we get the job done as long as the job gets done. As long as we all win, meaning our students are successful, our teachers are supported, that's all that really counts. That's all that really matters. It doesn't matter if you get the credit or somebody else does. Nobody really cares about that. Only our egos care about that. The goal is for students to succeed at high levels, to get what they need, for teachers to be supported so that they have the resources they need to facilitate a phenomenal testing session. And so it doesn't matter who leads in a particular area, as long as you are empowering people to be great in their area of expertise, that's all that matters. That is it. So number 3, our third leadership lesson from state testing is that pressure reveals leadership gaps. Number 4, you must lead through logistics. Operations are leadership in disguise. So when I'm talking about operations, I'm talking about room assignments. One of the things that we did last year was that in terms of our testing schedule, we made sure that every student tested in their first period class. Logistically, yes, did it make sense? I think on the surface level, it did make sense because it allowed students to have familiarity with the teacher that they were testing with. They were going right into their first period class and they were able to test. But on the back end, we also realized that when it comes to those math tests, right? We're talking about Algebra 1. We're talking about geometry. We're talking about grade level math. Sometimes those tests have different testing lengths. So you might have a 60-minute test versus a 90-minute test. On the surface level, it looks like, yes, everybody can test in first period and it looks great. However, if a teacher has to unlock a 60-minute test versus a 90-minute test, then they have to monitor which students are taking the 60-minute test within their classroom, and then the 90-minute, it just becomes a lot logistically, right? And so and here's a leadership lesson within that lesson, although something may be easier for you as a leader, you have to do some self-reflection and ask yourself, is it easier for the teachers? If it's more difficult for the teachers, but it's easier for you, are you actually leading in a way that is going to be beneficial for them? You have to be a servant leader. You have to do what's best for other people. That's why you're put in a leadership position. Not to take shortcuts, not to do what's convenient. Leadership is doing the hard thing. And so when you realize it, though, at the end of the day, you may think that you're doing a hard thing because you have to rearrange the schedule in a way that every teacher has the same length in terms of what they have to monitor based on what math the student is taking. You will realize that it's actually not that difficult, right? I think sometimes we have these mental models that allow us to just do what we did in the past, right? This is how we did it in the past, so this is how we're going to do it in the future. And that's not necessarily right all the time. Just because we did something in the past doesn't mean that we should continue doing it. There's always a better way. And we have to be willing to find the way to do it. And so if you're finding yourself doing what's best for you, doing what's best for the leadership team, but not what's best for teachers, do some self-reflection to see how you can better support them. That's why you're in a leadership position, to be a servant leader, to create some sort of transformation for people to make their job easier. So master the details, but empower others to manage them. Systems are your friends. Systems are your friends. When you start to develop systems, it allows things to run smoothly. It allows people to operate with clarity. It allows you to understand that you don't have to manage every minute detail of everything because you created a system. You created a system to do that for you. So systems are your friends. Number 4, our fourth leadership lesson was you must lead through logistics. Number 5, emotional intelligence is essential. If you can't manage your emotions, you'll struggle to lead others through theirs. And I briefly mentioned that before, right? State testing is going to amplify emotions. It is going to make people, specifically who are people who have type A personalities, who are very detail oriented, right? Who need to make sure that there are no deviations from plans. It is going to make them feel frustrated if there are constantly changes in the plans that you've created. And I understand that there are adjustments that we have to make, right? That's what we do as leaders. But at the end of the day, You have to be able to manage your emotions if there are unforeseen issues that arise during state testing, so that people aren't looking at you and seeing how frantic you are. And then that is reflected on the way that they are acting. And then it trickles down to the children, right? Like there is a process with all of this. And so you have to be someone who is able to, maybe internally you might be panicking, but externally you don't show it. And then you go back to the leadership team to figure out a solution, right? Why did we not assign a particular student all of their accommodations? How do we, and what I mean by that too is, right, not spending time to figure out who dropped the ball and who are we going to blame. I am big on going to the next play. If we make a mistake, move to the next play. How do we rectify the situation? We're not going to spend time trying to figure out where the ball was dropped. Maybe we do that after state testing to ensure that we don't do it again, so that the challenge that we had, we can kind of mitigate that next time. But in the moment, how do we move forward, right? I think that is a really important, that's an extremely important leadership key that we have to think about. Once you land that first leadership role, do not wallow in the fact that there was a mistake made. Move forward. Then figure it out later so that you don't make the mistake. But in that moment, we have to make sure that we are moving forward. And that requires a level of emotional intelligence. How do I manage my emotions in a way that does not come across to other people as if I don't know what I'm doing and is as if I'm frantic as well? Because as a leader, you are a mirror toward other people. You are a reflection for other people. So number 5 was emotional intelligence is essential. And lastly, delegation is not optional. It's strategy. Now, I'm not saying that we just delegate everything, right? You should have a role and a responsibility as your school testing coordinator, but you do need to delegate because, again, you cannot do it all by yourself. If everything depends on you, you're the bottleneck. You're the only person that has the information. You're the only person that can log into the system and be able to rectify what's happening with a student's test, right? Let's say that they accidentally log out and you're the only person that knows what to do, but you now have an emergency to attend to. Like what to attend to? What do you do? So figure out who you can empower, figure out the team that's going to be best to help you lead state testing, and then understand that delegation is not optional. Effective leaders multiply themselves by sharing responsibility. We're talking about shared responsibility when it comes to state testing. Delegation isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Again, delegation isn't weakness, it's wisdom. The best leaders are the ones who actually use delegation to their advantage. But it's going to require you to let go of control. And sometimes as leaders, we don't want to let go of control. Not always, but sometimes we think that by us having a level of control over everything that's going on, we are also influencing the direct outcomes of what happens in a positive way, which is not necessarily true. Because we are all limited in our thinking. We are all limited in our capacity to get things done. But if we empower other people and allow them to lead in their particular gifting, taking a back seat sometimes doesn't mean that you're less than. It means that you have developed a strategy of delegation, which is wisdom. And so I don't want you to feel less than when other people are better than you in certain areas and they're getting credit. Again, we don't care about how we win. We just want to win. And a win means that the students are succeeding at high levels. That's what winning means as a school leader. Winning means that students are succeeding at high levels. It means that teachers are supported. That's the goal. That's it. And so again, our 6th leadership lesson when it comes to state testing is delegation is not optional. It's strategy. As I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, as an aspiring school leader, you might find yourself serving as your school testing coordinator. You might have to train your staff, right, through your mandated state training. You might have to train them, making sure that they know exactly what's going on, talking about the logistics. You're going to have to over-communicate what's happening. You're going to have to make sure that you are empowering a team of individuals that are going to be able to handle some of those tactical and technical skills and aspects of state testing. You're going to have to communicate with parents, talk about accommodations with CST. There are so many things that you have to do. And so I wanted to share these 6 leadership lessons with you because I think that they are extremely important and that you're not going to find them in a textbook. You're not going to find them unless somebody is teaching you, as I am here. And if you are somebody that needs additional support throughout your school leadership journey, if you're serious about taking school leadership to the next level, if you're serious about taking your career to the next level and you want that and you know that you are ready for that promotion and the career shift that you deeply desire, reach out, send me a direct message so that we can work together to get you to where you know that you need to be. Because you know that there are a group of students, there's a school community, there are teachers that need to be supported. And you know that you are feeling that tug on the inside of you that is ready to take your leadership to the next level. And so I want you to also think about what's holding you back. What is it costing you to not step into school leadership? Is it costing you in your school community a level of excellence that you know that you have deep inside, that you can help support your school community in ways that they have not been receiving? Or maybe you're on the other hand, your school community is thriving, but you know that you're up next to help carry on the legacy of the person that may be retiring soon. Are you going to be ready? And if that's you, if you're ready to seriously take your leadership game to the next level and be supported in ways and coached and mentored to help you reach that promotion that you deeply desire, let's work together. I've created an Elevate Your Impact coaching program, which is an 8-week one-on-one coaching program to help you get to where it is that you know you need to be. All right. So if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone else. Make sure that you like and also subscribe on YouTube so that we can continue to help as many aspiring school leaders as possible get to where they know they need to be and achieve their dreams and help students achieve at high levels. As always, I hope you have a great week of teaching, leading, and learning. Take care.
I love that you talked about mindset, because mindset is extremely important as you become a school leader. And so that leads us into our second complexity, which is navigating the learning curve, right? Whenever you are promoted to the next level in your career, you will always begin as a novice. So it doesn't matter that you were an effective classroom teacher, you have raving reviews from your students. Becoming a school leader is a different skill set. And so we need to start teaching aspiring school leaders that it takes a level of emotional intelligence and self-awareness to understand just because you got results doesn't mean you're going to get results here. You need to work at this. And so one of the things I constantly think about is the fact that the learning curve can be steep. As a teacher, I'm walking into the building with a set schedule. As a leader, I might have a set schedule if I'm planning properly, but it might immediately become obsolete as soon as I walk in the building. The learning curve that I had to navigate was I'm walking in the building with my bags on. Teachers are firing questions at me. I haven't even made it to my desk yet. How am I navigating that? With being tactful.